Mark Ludwig is the executive director of Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, and this is an organization that perhaps many of our listeners are not familiar with, but you all are dealing with the difficult problem of kids who are from divorced homes. It's a difficult topic, a difficult subject to talk about. Tell us what you work on and what your goals are with this organization.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is for children to have healthy relationships with both parents after divorce or separation. We hope that a divorce never happens, but the reality is it's going to happen. And so if that does happen, we need to make sure that those kids are protected and they have the same relationship with those parents the day after the divorce that they had the day before the divorce. Unfortunately, right now around the country, in 83% of the cases, one parent is going to be considered the custodial parent. I refer to it as the superior parent, and one is the non-custodial. And in the child's mind, I think of my own son. He only gets to see me on weekends. So as he's growing up as a child, he sees one parent having to ask the other person for permission. In his mind, they're not two equal parents. One's the superior and one's the inferior, which is very confusing for a child when they're growing up, and very unhealthy for the parent-child relationship in that instance.
So what are the things that you're trying to work on and work toward to change that?
Yeah, there's a bill that we introduced in this year. We added in about 24 different states. It's called the 50-50 rebuttable presumption bill. The presumption part means that before you know any facts about a case, when two parents walk into a courtroom, the presumption is that that child has equal access to both of them. Now, the rebuttable part means that a judge has judicial discretion, so you don't rubber stamp that every single case. Because there may be cases where one parent doesn't want to be a parent. In that case, as much as we'd like that parent to be active, if they don't want to be active, that's an unhealthy relationship for that child to be in. Or there are cases where there's abuse, and so you don't want to force a child to be in that type of situation. But you don't, from a due process standpoint, you don't know that. So you can't rubber stamp every other weekend on every case until you know the facts of the case.
So what kind of, you say this bill has been passed in a number of states?
No, it's been introduced.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still working on getting a solid bill passed. Yeah, we've had a couple states that introduced versions, but just not strong enough versions yet.
So what do you hope will be the impact if and when these bills are passed in the states?
Good question. I think a couple things it's going to accomplish. Number one is for the children to have healthier relationships with the parents. But number two, to reduce conflict. I get calls every single day from parents, both men and women, who say, you know what, I wasn't as mad at my spouse until I went to an attorney. And the attorney said, look, in our state, one of you is going to win and one of you is going to lose. And so you better dig up dirt on your ex to prove why you should be the winner, if you will. And the sad thing is, you should never have a winner and a loser with a child over their parents. The kid needs both parents to win. And I think it would reduce conflicts if parents could go to an attorney and the attorney would say, look, in our state, you're both probably going to get equal access. I think it would start and reduce that adversarial relationship going into the divorce proceedings.
So what are some of the outcomes that you see in terms of how divorce impacts children, the way things are working now?
That's what I was amazed at until I came across my own personal situation. I had never been aware of how prevalent this fatherless issue was. Now, this issue technically is gender neutral. It could affect either side, but it tends to affect men at about a 4-to-1 ratio. And a child growing up without a father, especially a boy without that male role model, when you look at all the incarceration rates, violent crime rates, drug use rates, high school dropout rates, 80 to 94% of every single one of those has shown it's been tied to a child growing up without a father in the home. And so, yes, there's some fathers that walk out, and we can't do anything about that.
In many cases, they just disappear, they take off, they don't take responsibility.
Yeah, so you can't really do anything there, but I have to believe that well over half of those cases are fathers like me that we passionately want to be involved, and we're being pushed out by the system. So, like I said, to be able to re-engage fathers, I think society as a whole, every time I hear of a school shooting, I can almost guarantee you, before I read the newspaper, I can almost promise you in about a week we're going to find out that shooter grew up without a dad in the home.
Yeah, and as you say, if you look at the prison population, the vast majority of people in prison either have no relationship with their fathers, they don't know their fathers, or they have a bad relationship.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of it, we've all seen those viral videos that go around around the internet of a military person returning home and surprising their kid at a basketball game, where the kid just runs across the court to jump in their dad's arms. Because kids have just an ingrained desire to have a relationship with both parents. And when you take a child who, first off, doesn't understand mom and dad not being together, that's confusing for them. But now all of a sudden they only see one of them. Man, are they really confused? And that's where they resort to. In females growing up without a father, they resort normally to promiscuity type issues. And in a boy's issue, they tend to more relate to or become violent and act out in that manner.
So, final question: Do you think? It's hard to know because these bills have not passed yet. But do you think, theoretically, in a situation where the parents have more access in a divorce, there's a possibility perhaps that there may be some reconciliation because of a more cooperative environment?
Oh, I definitely think so. As I said, that adversarial relationship, when an attorney stirs up and gets you riled up against each other at the beginning, because as we said, we hope marriages stay together. And so many marriages, people do have valleys that they go through. Well, if they're in the middle of a valley and they have an attorney that's riling them up even more, they're getting them past the point of no return. I think if they started out in the process saying, look, you're probably going to get 50-50 anyway, I think they would hold off a little bit, and like I said, I think there's a lot more chance for reconciliation.
Mark Ludwig, Executive Director of the Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.